Hi, this is Carl with another SOP video for managed service providers. Today I want to encourage you to kiss your PSA or service board. Whether you have a full-featured PSA or just a standalone service board, one of the things you need to do is to go through its functionality and make it as simple as possible. So keep it simple, right? You've seen that. Your service board has so much functionality. And you know, the truth is when you say, oh, what are the possible statuses? It's easy for a service board manufacturer to add 15, 20, 50, 200 possible statuses and priorities, and right, there's all kinds of little things that you could have all over your service board. So, you know, when I teach a class on managing your service board, one of the first things we go through is what are the statuses you're going to use? What are the priorities you're going to use? What are the work types and subtypes you're going to use? What are the ticket types and subtypes you're going to use? And my advice is always to use as few as you can possibly get away with. For example, when you look through the statuses in your system, you shouldn't have too many of them because you need 8, 10, maybe 12. On a rare occasion, I could see an organization getting away with 20 different statuses, but you shouldn't have too many. And here's the fundamental reason why. If you have too many statuses, you will have tickets that get lost. And the reason for it is very simple. It's one thing to say waiting on parts. It's another thing to say waiting on hardware from Dell, waiting on software from Microsoft, waiting for test results from this vendor, that vendor, the other vendor. The most generic category, waiting on parts, is probably good enough. Waiting on test results is probably good enough. If you have statuses that you look through and you say, oh, that status has only been used once in the last year, delete it. You do not need it. Find something more appropriate. If you have too many statuses, then you have tickets that get lost because people sort this way and they sort this way and they sort that way, and that ticket never shows up. Same thing with priorities. I'm a big believer in 4 priorities. So high, medium, and low, and then an emergency. And an emergency sets itself. So a human being can't declare an emergency. Only nature can declare an emergency. But some people have a 10-layered priority system so that they can say, well, you know, these are all high priority, but these are the highest, or these are the most important, whatever. But you shouldn't have 100 priority statuses, right? 100 layers. At some point, can you really tell me the difference between a 28 and a 32? Really hard to argue. So think about a map of your system. And especially with statuses, how does a ticket get into your system, work its way through the system, and get out of your system? You need a status for every step along the way. Some tickets will take different paths. Some will be put on hold. Some will be waiting for parts. Some will be waiting for a payment. Some will be rework. But however they go through, however they map their way through that system, there's a limited number of stops that they can take. Now, for those of you who say, that's great advice for small companies, let me just tell you, I started out managing ticketing system for 5,000 computers at HP. So we didn't have 50 statuses. We didn't have 25 statuses. We had just enough statuses so that a ticket would never get lost. And just because the software can do something doesn't mean it's a good idea for you to implement it. I had a client one time that bought some tool that they found somewhere, and they were sold on the fact that they could crank down their Active Directory so that it was as massively secure as you can possibly imagine. And they proceeded to lock out all of their employees out of their system and made it very difficult for anybody who was not a system administrator to actually get their job done. And then we had to go in and clean it up. It was a complete disaster. And it was partly because they tried to get too far into the details, into things that did not matter, right? You can crank any system down or get into too much detail, and you've actually spent time making it less useful. Clients always have this sort of tension between security and usability, right? I don't want to use a password, it slows me down. I don't want to use two-factor authentication, it slows me down. Okay, fine, but guess what? Nobody is stealing millions of dollars from your company because you were slowed down just a little bit and you have that two-factor authentication. So, you know, sometimes you got to figure out what's the balance between too much detail and being able to get your work done. Within your business, your ticketing system is the heart of your productivity. So it should have as few variables as possible for you to get all of your work done. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. For Small Biz Thoughts, this is Carl Polachuk wishing you the best of luck in your managed service business.